You know, we're a very small church, but we attract some great beings. And we are privileged to have as our speaker one of them today. Dick Dingus is pastor of the Fellowship of the Inner Light. And I've been back in Virginia Beach for a year now after moving away, and I've met a lot of people around town. And I talked to them about their lives, and so many people have said to me, I know somebody from your church. He was so helpful to our family in a very difficult time. And he even came in, brought his guitar to our sick relative. His name is Dick Dingus. And we are so fortunate to have him as one of our own brothers here. He's a hospice chaplain. When I asked him for some of his credentials, he said, well, he's married to his wife Bonnie, and he's raising his 3 grandchildren, and his son helps. And that's the humility of this great man who we love. He started our caring circle and sends out people to help all of us in times of need. So we're very privileged to have Dick as our speaker today. Welcome.
Thank you for your kind words. In planning this talk, I wanted to say something that would benefit others. So I thought about the title, What Makes Life Worth Living? But I realized that I can't generalize in such a way, so I changed the title to What Makes My Life Worth Living? And for me, there are two prerequisites for a happy life. The first is keeping busy. I need to stay on top of everything that I have accepted to do. Otherwise, I feel overwhelmed and depressed. So I get enough sleep so that I can feel good about keeping going. I don't drink alcohol anymore. I used to drink red wine, but the sugar content was too high, and my doctor said I was pre-diabetic. So I changed to beer. But then I noticed when I drank a beer, I didn't feel like working. And so there's a possibility that I could get behind in all that I need to do. So I gave up beer. And I gave up coffee too. Because my experience was that coffee gave me an artificial high. It pumped me up, but it had a corresponding low that followed it. And I don't need that. What I need is a constant flow of energy that will keep me going in a steady manner, like plants in a garden need organic fertilizer that gives a steady flow of nutrients. I enjoy what I do. I'm still working as a full-time chaplain with Heartland Hospice. And at home, with the help of my son Chris, we're raising my 3 grandchildren. I have a large garden. I have rabbits. Just over 2 dozen right now. I have a backyard farm. It works in a cycle. I enjoy working in the garden and seeing things grow. I enjoy eating out of the garden almost every day. The rabbits provide fertilizer. The scraps go to the rabbits. You could come and visit my garden. I'd love to give you a tour. You may not be able to come, so I brought some of my garden to you today. There are green cherry tomatoes in the silver bowl back by the recording desk. And if you take them home and put them in a shady place, they may ripen and they'll taste quite good. I believe the earth is a living being with life-sustaining energy. Plants draw this from earth, and we get it from plants. To get the most energy, we need to eat fresh. The freshest I've ever eaten from the garden is when I bent over and I ate broccoli off the plant. That's fresh. I think the food value in plants has a half-life, just like a radioactive substance has a half-life. The radioactive half-life of radium may be thousands of years, but for a plant, it may be hours. And so to get the full value, you need to eat it right away. I once read an article called "The Night of the Living Dead Food." And the author compared the value of fresh garden produce with canned food. And you know which one won. I don't take any medicines. Instead, I eat fresh from my garden. On any day, I can pick a dozen different plants to put into a vegetable salad. And I eat a little protein with it too, maybe a piece of chicken or cheese or peanuts or whatever. But it's really satisfying, and I believe it helps to keep me healthy. I also enjoy being part of this church. This church is a model for the future. You may not be aware of it, but Fellowship of the Inner Light has an organizational structure that will enable it to survive when other churches go bankrupt. We don't have a settled pastor. Instead, we have volunteer pastors. This means we don't have the expenses of a large salary or health insurance or housing allowance. Also, we do some avant-garde things here. We honor the truth in all religions. This is symbolized by all those symbols on the wall of the Church of the World Religions. A marvelous display. On a monthly basis, we have speakers who talk about their own near-death experiences. Religion in churches, in traditional churches, is really stuck. Part of the reason is that most Christians rely solely on the Bible for their authority. In my opinion, near-death experience is God's update for religious programming. I'm usually behind the camera here at Fellowship of the Inner Light, and I convert both Fellowship of the Inner Light and Virginia Beach Friends of Ion's speakers onto DVD. And thanks to Sarah, the speakers here go onto YouTube for worldwide access. This is a significant influence for change. I enjoy being effective. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you to the board who voted that we could do this. Also, this church incorporates what I have learned from persons who have had near-death experiences, that God loves everybody unconditionally. That is light years ahead of most Christian dogma. One major truth near-death experiencers convey is that God is love. That's just what the Apostle John wrote about 2,000 years ago. To me, this means that the very essence of God is love and nothing else. If we've read A Course in Miracles, we know that love is all there is. From the hymn we sang today, "Joyful, joyful, we adore thee," come the words that God is ever blessing, ever blessed. God radiates blessing and love and life and satisfaction of needs to everyone all the time. without interruption. And we can be part of that when we love unconditionally. Then we experience our own identity as children of God, and that makes life worth living. So I hardly do anything that I don't enjoy doing. The hardest thing for me is getting up out of bed in the morning, because I know that once I get up, it'll be non-stop work until I hit the hay again, late at night. But I enjoy the results of my labor. I enjoy being productive. King Solomon, known for his wisdom, wrote almost the exact same words almost 2,500 years ago. It's found in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 12 and 13. He wrote, "So I conclude that first, there is nothing better for a man than to be happy and to enjoy himself as long as he can. And second, that he should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of his labors, for these are the gifts from God." I like doing. You've heard it said from this lectern that there is doing and there's being, and we should focus on being. But doing is part of the cycle of life. Do you remember how the Trinity was described through Neil Donald Walsh in his book's Conversation with God? The Father was the all-knowing. The Son was knowing in action. The Holy Spirit was savoring the memory of having acted. Think of going fishing this way. The Father knows what is possible on a fishing trip. The Son says, "I'm going fishing." And he does so. He catches all he wants, he cleans them, he eats them, he enjoys that experience. Then the Holy Spirit sits on the porch after dinner and savors the memory of having gone fishing. Right now, we are the Son. Right now, I am doing. And if I keep up the pace, then overall, the routine of life is good. Good work, good meals, good sleep, good health. My second prerequisite for finding life worth living is not killing myself. I stuck it out when I didn't feel that life was worth living. I did not commit suicide. I was in the Navy. The emotional pain seemed too great when I started thinking about how I was going to do it. Then I called a friend. And just talking to him got me through it. Life gets better. It's worth enduring the hard times to enjoy the victories that come later. If you live long enough, you can collect Social Security. You can draw from any pensions that you may have earned. And you can keep working at a job that provides satisfaction without financial penalty from Social Security. You might even get to speak from this lectern. My prerequisites for finding life worth living are keeping busy and looking beyond the rough times. Having fulfilled the prerequisites, I have filled my life with what I have found most valuable. I have a vocation. Some people might call it a calling. I pursued the education and the certifications that I needed to enter the ordained ministry. Went to college, seminary. I was in care of my local denominational association in Massachusetts. While I was finishing up my education, I had 2 quarters of clinical pastoral education. So that qualified me. My grandma Al left me $3,000 for my education. And that helped a lot in the 1960s when I went to college. GI benefits got me through seminary. That was in the 70s. I was a pastor in the United Church of Christ for 26 years, and I've been a hospice chaplain with Heartland for 13 years. On one clergy retreat, I learned about the Enneagram. There were 8 possibilities for personality types, and I was a number 2. Persons in this category get energy by helping others. And so I followed the path that would lead to fulfillment. When I was in high school, I became part of Youth for Christ. I thrived spiritually, socially too. I developed a desire to become a pastor so that I could enable others to have the same experience. And I wanted to follow the leaders of my Youth for Christ group to Nyack Missionary College. My dad did not approve. He thought I should become a chemist or something else where I could earn some money. He wasn't going to allow me to use my grandmother's money to go to Nyack. So I was stuck on the horns of a dilemma. The Bible had become my authority at that time, and the Apostle Paul had written, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord." Well, I was sort of stuck. I wanted to obey the Lord, but was my dad, he didn't have much faith. Was he a parent in the Lord? Or should I think more broadly that I should obey my parents? I really wanted to follow my inner guidance and go on to college. And in the end, I chose my inner guidance. And I left home for college with nothing. Eventually, my dad sent Grandma Al's money to help pay for tuition. Being a pastor in a traditional church is not an easy job. You may think that you're the boss, but the best model is for the pastor to be everybody's servant. Think of yourself as the waiter or the waitress in the restaurant who asks people what they would like from the menu. And then you get it to them right away, just the way they asked. And you check on them to make sure that everything's okay. Jesus said it this way, "The greatest among you will be your servant." Whatever model you choose, pastors who are listening in, being a pastor puts you in the position to help others. One of my greatest satisfactions as a pastor was to start a self-help support group for separated and divorced persons. The group grew in numbers, and as people healed, it evolved into advanced groups. I trained others to lead the groups, and even though I left that church, the groups continued, and some of the people from the groups joined the church. One of my greatest practical learnings was to play the guitar. I always wanted to play an instrument. I could sing. I remember singing "I Believe" when I was in junior high school with the choir. So at age 48, I bought a guitar through an ad in the newspaper. And I found out that learning is in 2 stages. First in your head, and then with your fingers. Then, like riding a bicycle, it becomes automatic. Over the past 13 years as a hospice chaplain, I have used my guitar to make people happy. I sing hymns that my clients used to sing when they were able to go to church. Sometimes old popular songs like "Goodnight Irene" resonate better with folks. I once had a client named Irene, and so I sang that one to her every time I visited her, and her husband liked it especially. Recently, I visited a woman who used to sing with Sweet Adelines, but lately she hasn't been singing, hasn't been talking much. Well, I had some of their music with me, and so I brought it out, and I started singing these songs, and she sang along with me, much to the surprise of her new daughter-in-law, who had never heard her sing before. Another client taught me a song that her grandfather used to sing to her, and I want to sing it to you. ain't gonna rain no more, no more. It ain't gonna rain no more. How in the heck gonna wash my neck? It ain't gonna rain no more. I sing what makes people happy, and that makes me happy. People sing and smile. We laugh together. They thank me. I get paid for singing and making people happy. Jesus said to visit the sick. I get paid for doing what Jesus said. I had a reading with Joanne DeRushi this past year, and I asked her, have I completed my soul's purpose? She, or more accurately, Bethrina, through her, said that my soul's purpose for this lifetime included being part of the accepted religious community and then learning and growing to become part of a more inclusive community. And she said that I was successful in both. Did well. If you need help finding direction in life, then you could consult a psychic who wants to be helpful. We have one in our midst, Judy Higdon. Just talk to Judy. Raise your hand, Judy. An even better way to find your soul's purpose is to get a between-life regression. And we have someone among us who can lead a between-life regression. Elena, raise your hand. You could revisit the planning session that you had with your guide before you came into the earth this time. You can see what you chose for your path, for your goals, and even for your companions. You can see it for yourself. You don't have to rely on a third person to tell you. And likely, you will find out that you're doing exactly what you planned. I chose the field of religion, but helping others can be done outside of any religious context. It's interesting to note that near-death experiencers often change their professions into one of the helping professions. The goal is simply to relate in an easy and positive way to the people we meet. When we let our light shine, we extend positive energy to everything around us, people, animals, and plants, and even what we think of as inanimate objects. Next Sunday will be the beginning of the church season of Advent, and Sarah has prepared an Advent ritual based on Rudolf Steiner that honors each of these 4 realms. To make life worth living, I got married twice. The first one didn't last. It fell apart after I enlisted in the Navy. The second one lasted nearly 40 years. I wanted to be part of a family. Bonnie had a nice family. I became part of it. I married into her family. It was good. Recently, I had a dream. I was with Bonnie's family and Bonnie's father's old boat, the Happy Days. It was the Lazy Days. Happy Days was the name of the cottage on the island. We were out on the ocean, on the open sea, and the sea was calm. All of a sudden, a large wave washed over the open boat. The boat filled with water, and it was in danger of sinking. I found a large bucket, and I dipped it. I wanted to bail out the boat, but the boat sank before I could dump the first bucketful over the side. Quickly, I grabbed the end of a line so I could dive down and tie it to the boat so that there'd be a buoy on the other end and we could locate the boat later. So I dived down, but there was nothing there. I looked around, I saw fish, that was all. The boat sank, and there was nothing I could do to save it. And then it was gone. The dream may mean that my connection with Bonnie's family is over. Bonnie is in hospice care. Her parents have died. I'm waiting for the next chapter to be read. I say read rather than written because it's already written. The psalmist, referring to God, wrote, "You saw me before I was born, and scheduled each day of my life before I began to breathe. Every day was recorded in your book." Psalm 139, verse 16. By the way, wise King Solomon also had something to write about marriage. It's found in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 11. He wrote, "On a cold night, two under the same blanket gain warmth from each other. But how can one be warm alone?" These quotes are from the Living Bible translation. Bonnie and I adopted two boys. We wanted to have a family of our own. We couldn't do it naturally, so we adopted. It was a lot of work raising two boys, but with a good result because now we have 7 grandchildren. I will have a family into my old age. Bella is 11. I tell her, "I will hold your children in my arms." People ask me how I am coping with Bonnie being in hospice care. My work in hospice and my knowledge of near-death experience help me to accept that this is not the end. Bonnie will be much happier after she leaves this physical realm, and I will love her forever. This aspect of life on earth is just a dream that we chose for our own enjoyment and development. So I find life worth living, and I am thankful for this experience. Thankful to God and to people who have loved me, accepted, helped, and taught me, and who have allowed me to love, accept, help, and teach them. And that especially includes you. Thank you.